Welcome to the Shit Appreciation Podcast, where today we're going to be speaking about parenting.
I think some people will definitely do that immediate reaction like I do and go, ugh.
Yeah.
And some people will be absolutely...
Do you not find it strange when you meet people who are just like, I love parenting, and they've got all of like the rainbow coloured rice that they've made for their kids, and like, do you know what I mean?
Do you know what I think? I mean, they're in fucking denial. I think they're in absolute denial. I think parenting it is stressful and joyful and stressful and joyful and then more stress, really, to be quite honest with you. I think if I had been told that, you know, when you have a child that you are literally going to spend the rest of your existence in a state of worry, that I may have rethought things.
Yeah.
Because that's how I feel. I feel like it is literally just worry.
Well, I became a mum when I was 17, and I don't think there's any age that can prep you enough to being ready to be a parent, whether you're 17 or whether you're 45. The difference is obviously that maturity. So there is like life experience on your side. But I know that when I was like, oh, I'm going to have a baby, in my head, I never thought that that baby wasn't ever going to be a baby. And suddenly I've got a nearly 25-year-old. And you're like, it's so weird.
And you look so young.
But it's so weird to think, isn't it? Oh, yeah, we're going to have a baby. We're trying for a baby. But actually what you're trying for is a lifelong commitment to a human. And that's the scary bit, which I don't think we get when we're saying, oh, yeah, let's have a baby.
Yeah, because the idea is not necessarily the reality, is it? Let's be honest.
No, not at all. I mean, okay, yeah, when you have a baby, everyone's like, oh, the sleepless nights and how are you getting on with this and the potty training and the, you know, feeding and everything else. Oh, no one talks to you about when they get their voice of their own, or
like, when they get an opinion and when they want to chat back.
Yeah.
And, oh my God. For me, I didn't have my first until I was 32. I had to think about that then. I'm not that old that I have to think back that long, but I think I was about 32 when I was pregnant with my first. And it was kind of something that I never thought was ever going to happen to me, to be honest with you. I didn't think that I'd ever be in the position where I'd meet somebody that I wanted to have a child with. And it was kind of like, it wasn't particularly planned, but it wasn't unplanned. It was kind of like, you know,
a beautiful surprise.
Let's just see what happens. Lo and behold, then it happened. And then you've got the whole reality of birth, which is absolutely terrifying because you just don't know what to expect. And I think that's also another thing that is something that people don't talk enough about. I mean, I always hear, everybody always wants to share a negative experience, but not everybody always wants to share a positive experience. I think that was also something that gave me like massive anxiety. It was like, first, oh, I'm pregnant. And it was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to give birth now. This is, you know, happening. Oh my God. It's just, yeah.
This little human inside of me has got to come out somehow.
It's got to come out somehow.
Yeah.
And neither option sound particularly nice.
No.
So.
And you've literally signed up for it and there's no... Like, you can't get out of it. That's it. That's your only option is birth.
I also think as well that there's this perception that, especially for women, that it's natural. It's a natural thing, and that as soon as your baby is born, that you're going to absolutely love and adore them. I'm sure that happens for some, but I would probably imagine that sort of 80-90% of people don't feel that instant connection once they have a baby. I think obviously you're going through the trauma of birth and everything else. And it actually took me probably a good few months to connect with my child, to have those sorts of feelings of, you know, I'm going to look after you and protect you forever, because I was just too exhausted to even think about it.
I think it's really scary when once we've given birth, we have this idea that we're going to go back to, I remember having the conversation a lot, is I'm looking forward to being me again. Like, I'm just looking forward to being me about, like, not pregnant and just like Jodie again. But that never happens, ever. And it's that bit that's really scary, because suddenly it's like, well, I've not gone back. And that's because you can't, because you're not that person anymore.
Oh, man.
And that is like, there's almost like a grieving process in that, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Like, I'm not the Jodie that was Jodie before she had her first baby. I'm not the Jodie that was there before she had a second or third baby. Like, I'm just evolving constantly and I can't keep up with that. Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
It's necessarily a bad thing. You don't necessarily always want to, go back in time to what you once were. I definitely think there's awful lot of pressure on women to go back physically. And I think that is from other women, to be quite honest with you. I don't think that's a realistic expectation. And that was a lot of pressure. That was an awful lot of pressure. I felt more pressure from that than anybody judging my parenting. I very much felt that it was more about a judgment on how I looked physically after having a baby than actually my parenting style or my parenting skills. I don't know how you felt about that.
For me, no, it was the opposite, actually. For me, it was definitely the judgment on my parenting. But I think
that's the age.
It could be age, but it also could be our conditioning. Because what are we already saying to ourselves? Like, I know for me, the way I started my parenting journey is definitely not how I parent now.
Yeah.
Thank God. Like, I am so pleased that that's not the case, because I was not a healthy parent when I was 17, 18, 19 years old. And even once I'd had my son, another 8.5 years later, I had figured some stuff out, but I definitely wasn't where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
But weirdly, I mean, I already had sort of certain issues with my body. And I kind of knew I would bounce back into the size whatever jeans I was in. That wasn't necessarily a fear, because it was like, I know I'm going to do that. But the fear for me definitely was more based around
what other people thought
what
about
other
your
people.
parenting.
Yeah. And I'm wondering whether that was because of, as a child, I felt judged with who I was as a child, and I linked it back to my parents' parenting. Potentially.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I'm wondering whether the fear that comes up after birth is linked to
That.
Yeah, to whatever limiting conversation we're having already going on within our minds.
I wasn't really ever bothered about what other people thought about my parenting. The thing that I found personally for me is that I was always very, very honest with the people that I was with. So obviously I think most people who have just had a child end up going into like a baby group and things like that. And I think there's a little bit of a stigma around baby groups as well, because you kind of think, oh God, it's just a bunch of mums that all they think about is babies and all they think about is nappies. And it's like, you were a person before you became a parent. And there are other topics of conversation that you can have with people that don't involve your child. But I always very much found that for me, I would go into these sort of group situations and I'd be very truthful, and I'd be like, oh, I've had a shit day. I've had a shit night's sleep. This is, this is a nightmare. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. And I actually found that more women would open up around me and be like, yeah, I'm really struggling, instead of having this facade on all the time that everything was easy breezy and, look at me, I'm just, thriving.
But I love the fact that you felt comfortable enough to do that.
Yeah.
Because for me, that would have been like a massive fear. To acknowledge and to admit that I was struggling was not an option for me.
Yeah.
Like, I can remember when I had Alice, and I mean, she was super young. She must have been like 8 weeks old. And I was pushing the buggy, and I was going through a bus station, and this woman came in, it's an older lady, and she came and looked inside the buggy and saw Alice. And she was like, oh, how old? And I said, oh, 2 months or whatever. And she was like, he or she? And I said, she. And she said, oh, are you with the dad? And I said, no, I'm not. She went, oh, one of those are you? And walked away.
God.
Yeah, I know, right?
The thing is, though, Jodie, if you were older,
yeah,
you would have literally ripped her to shreds.
Yeah.
But she knew that you were a vulnerable teenager. She could obviously tell by your physicality that you were a vulnerable teenager. So actually her saying that was an absolute fucking bitchy nasty. And that was meant to hurt you.
Yeah, but I already had the idea that I could potentially be a bad parent or be judged for my parenting. So naturally, this woman's come up to me and I've literally crumbled, because she's just fed straight into what I already believed about myself, or what was possible for myself.
I wonder if that's a normal thing for young teenage mums
to experience.
I mean, if anybody's out there that's a teenage mum or been a teenage mum, I'd love your comments and see whether that is something that's across the board that younger women felt that they had to almost prove that they were with good parents.
What I find is really sad about that moment is, and if you have gone through it as well, then this might resonate with you, is the way she said, "Oh, one of those are you," that was meaning I'm a teenage mum without a partner.
Yeah.
So without, in this situation, a man. So without a man in my life. And what I find super sad is that if I did have a man, but he wasn't supportive, he wasn't doing the man thing, like,
she would have still thought better of you.
So I would have been less judged. So naturally, what does a teenage child do at that point, or any human really, but a teenage child? Oh, well, just get with a man. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter what they represent.
Because I'll be judged in a different way.
Because at least I won't be judged, Or it'll be limited anyway, the judgment.
Fucking insane, isn't it?
I think that's a generational thing though, isn't it? I think it must be a generational thing where we can't leave our partner. We've got to stay with them even if
they're useless and they do absolutely nothing to contribute to.
Yeah, which again, when we're talking about parenting, is super tough, isn't it? Because if you're out there and you're not a single parent, but you're living like you are a single parent with your partner, and you're bringing your children up on your own, it can be so tough having that person there, because they disrupt the whole routine that you're currently implementing for your children. The better option is not just to stay.
But also, you'd feel more isolated, I think, if you were in a relationship with somebody who was not a present parent. You feel really isolated and really alone. At least to a degree, if you are a single parent, you will meet other single parents who are actually going through exactly what you're going through and are relatable. Yeah. You know, whereas if you've got a partner at home and you're deemed not as a single parent because there's another person present, where do you fit? You know, where do you fit? You're not a single parent, but you're not in a partnership which is parenting together.
Yeah, but you're doing everything that you would do if you were on your own. When there's obviously two parents within the house, you've got two separate parenting ideas coming to the table, and that can be really tough to navigate when they clash as well. Yeah. I hear that a lot, even with friends and family. You know, I want to do it this way and he wants to do it that way. And again, that's based on their parents parenting to them. So did you find that as your girls were getting older, did you find any of the parenting that you had as a young child coming through into your parenting for your children?
I think there must have been, to a degree. My mum was very present. She is like the epitome of what you would deem a perfect mother. She really is absolutely phenomenal. She is nurturing and loving, and I could speak to my mum about anything.
Lovely.
And my friends used to go and speak to my mum about anything. They always felt safe in our home. Whereas my dad, even though my dad was very present within the house, he wasn't very present as a parent when I was younger. I have vague memories of being with my dad, but it would always be doing something that my dad wanted to do. It was never doing anything that I wanted to do. There was never any play. There was never any sort of like that type of interaction. If I'd hurt myself, I certainly wouldn't be running to my dad. Never in a million years. I mean, that has changed, thankfully, as the years have gone on. And actually, I'm now seeing my dad being the parent that he actually wanted to be with me, with my children, which is really, really lovely. I mean, I try and be as loving and nurturing as I can be, but I'm also not a massively maternal individual. I'm not that person who is desperately for a cuddle. And I do find it very difficult if my children hurt themselves to be comforting. I find that very difficult, and I don't know whether that's part of my personality. It really annoys me when my children hurt themselves. It makes me angry. For example, if you know, Polly falls over, I'm like, oh my God, what have you done? Oh my God, get up. Oh, you silly sausage, what have you done? Rather than, whereas my mother would have gone, oh my God, come here, and embraced me and looked after me. I find it very difficult to be like...
What would your dad have done?
Probably would have left me. This is a funny story, but not a funny story. I had a day literally just with my dad when my mum was working, and it must have been like the school holidays or something. And I had a cat growing up that I was absolutely obsessed with, called Suki, and she just didn't really like me. She really didn't like me, but I really loved her. Like I really, really loved her. And I can remember the cat hiding from me at the back of the dining table, so I couldn't get to her, and I'm like but I want you.
Come here.
I want to love you. I need to love you. And she was like, no, 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 please go away. And I remember
Coming for you.
bending down to get her from underneath the table and smacking my mouth full throttle. And my front tooth was literally hanging on by a thread, and there was blood everywhere, like blood everywhere. And it was just my dad that was home, and I was like, oh, you know, crying and obviously distraught, and there's blood everywhere. And I was only small, it was like literally like a baby tooth. And I can remember my dad saying, all right then, we've got to go now, because he was meeting up with some of his friends doing country recreations. I don't want to say what he does, but yeah, he does country recreations. And I can remember literally sitting in his van while he went out with his friends, listening to Radio On, with my tooth hanging out of my face and blood streaming out of my mouth. And that is what...
That's how you deal with it.
That's how he would deal with it.
Wow. So really really detached, I suppose.
Yeah, it was really weird. So,
almost like ignoring it.
yeah, so
Pretend it didn't exist.
pretty much what
You're
I'm
doing,
doing.
yeah.
It's quite funny actually, because after the actual incident, when they've hurt themselves, I'll be like, oh, come here, you're right, you're right.
Of course.
But the initial incident, I'll be
Yeah.
like, what have you done? What have you done?
Yeah.
Oh, we've got to go. Got to do. Oh my God. So yeah, 100%. I've brought both of my parents parenting. Oh my God, this is like a therapy session for my own self. But it's really odd. It's really odd. Whereas Steve, my husband, is like the total opposite. He is so nurturing. He's like, oh, come here, show me your bruise, show me your thing.
Wow. I wonder what his parenting was like as well. His parents' parenting was like. So isn't it strange
weird.
when we break it down and we can just see the components that we've brought through? I mean, I can see it in mine. I remember many years ago, I remember really shouting at my middle child, Oscar, and I remember realising in that moment that that's not me. That wasn't me. That was something I had learnt. It wasn't the way I wanted to parent. It wasn't the way I enjoyed parenting. And I knew that I didn't ever want to do that again. And I knew that it was definitely a pattern and a behaviour that I had learned on how to deal with the current situation that was frustrating me. And I'm so freaking happy that I learnt a different way, because I know that way does not benefit any child. But my God, they went through it. Like both of my kids went through that. The two older ones went through it. My youngest didn't so much, because I'd kind of figured it out. But yeah, I guess I just want to highlight here as well that if you are currently parenting in a way that brings you, and it brings you a huge amount of guilt every day that is based around how you're emotionally responding to your children, that's okay, because that's where you can have a look at what you're doing and figure out if that's actually from your history, from your parents, rather than...
I mean, the fact that you would even feel remotely guilty about it says that you're doing a great job anyway.
Exactly
The
that.
fact that you can actually own it and be like, actually, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
fucked up there, shouldn't have shouted, oh my God, you know, I'll try and do better next time.
Yeah, because we're learning all the time, right? Like,
That's how to be parents.
Exactly, and that continues. Like, I find it so funny how we have a baby and we're learning, and then we have a toddler and we're learning, and then we have a young child and then we're learning, and then we have a preteen, and then we have a teen, and then we have a child in their 20s, and then it goes on and on. We never know what we're freaking doing. No. At no point I've never had a 25-year-old. I'm about to get one. Like, I don't know how to parent a 25-year-old. I've never had one. I mean, I get the gist of it, and the basis of, you know, that kind of baseline of it's all to do with love, support and care. But it's also massively also to do with our own boundary, especially as our children get older, because our children will know how to press our buttons and how to manipulate us. And they learn that for their own survival. So any parents that sort of say, oh no, my child doesn't lie and they don't do this and they're not manipulative, yes, they are. Yes, they freaking are.
They've manipulated you by thinking that they're not
are.
manipulating you.
Because we all are. Because that's how we survive. You know, when we want something, we will go and say it very nicely to our mum. And if she says no, we say it very nicely to our dad, or whatever. So as they get older, that if that's not kind of like shown with boundaries where it's applicable and where it shouldn't be applicable, that's when you're running into teenagers that are really tough to deal with. So our own boundaries as parents are super important. And yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable for the child. Yes, they're not going to like it. And you know what? That's life.
Yeah.
They are going to go through life, walking into situations where they're going to feel uncomfortable, and they're going to need to get used to it. We had to. They are going to have to as well.
I think it's really funny actually that you say that, because I had, like, my mum, as I say, was like super mum, and she was always like, you can do whatever you want to do, you can follow your dreams, you can be whatever you want to do. And my dad's basic ethos for life is expect to be disappointed, and then if you're not, that will be a great treat. So I've literally got high and low all the time. And no wonder I'm so messed up. Do you know what I mean? I'm like expecting greatness, but also expecting shit all at the same time. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so conflicted. But it does mean that when I parent my eldest daughter at the moment, she's going through, I love her to death, but she thinks she is the dog's bollocks at absolutely everything. And I know that she is a reflection of me. We're very, very similar. I'm sure you've got a child at home that is basically reflecting all the things that you don't necessarily like about yourself right back at you on the daily. She thinks she's phenomenal, and I sometimes have to give her a little reality check where my dad comes in and he says, nah, I don't know if you're that good at that. Maybe try something different, you know. And I'm having to do that now with her because, bless her, her confidence is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But some of the things she thinks she's like the dog's dick about is she really is not. Prime example. There's a swimming gala at school, and the kids in her class were meant to put their hands up who would want to be entered to the swimming gala. So she puts her hand up because she wants to be in the swimming gala, because she thinks she is the world's best Olympic style swimmer. She cannot swim. She can swim. I mean, she can keep herself afloat, but by no means can she swim well. And she came home, she's like, I've just entered into the swimming gala. I was like, what? What have you done? She's like, yeah, I've entered the swimming gala. I said, Polly, I said, you can't swim very well. She's like, yeah, I can. I'm great at swimming. I was like, you can't. You can't swim very well. I was like, love, I said, I have to tell you this now, that you are going to go into that swimming gala and all of your peers are going to be whizzing down the pool. And I said, and you are going to be at the back floating around. I said, you are great at many, many other things. Yeah. But not
swimming is not one of them.
Not swimming. And she cried and there was tears and that was like, but I'll try really hard. It's like, babe, you can't swim. I'd like to let you know that my child has had so many swimming lessons. It is absolutely insane. My poor husband has probably had to remortgage for the amount of swimming lessons that my child has had, but she's more interested in the social, which again represents me. Yeah, so I am definitely having to bring in that part of dad where it's like, yeah, actually.
It sounds like you've got a really nice balance there, and maybe it's taken up until now for you to work that balance out with the two characters that you had as a child and how you're now using those and what you know in your parenting with your children. But it sounds like you've got a really nice balance. What I love as well is the honesty, and I think that is massive. Being honest with our children means they can be honest with us.
Yeah.
And it hurts sometimes. And there is, I don't know, a few years ago this came out, and you'll probably know what I'm about to say, but this soft parenting. Now,
I've just got a big exhale.
Yeah. So first of all, right.
Yeah, gentle parenting.
That's it. Gentle parenting. Now, I am all in for gentle parenting, but someone redefined the definition of gentle parenting, and they took out all of the boundaries, all of the rules, all of the all of the tough stuff. And they're basically, now, it's considered as, oh no, don't do that. And if they do it again, oh, don't do that. No, that's not soft parenting. That's letting your kids get away with murder, getting away with the shit that's not going to benefit them. They need those no's, those rules, and those boundaries in order to know how to put them in place for themselves as they grow. So I'm all for this gentle parenting. By all means, say it. But also, say the freaking truth. Be honest with them. And I had this conversation with my boys as they were growing up. They'd come to me with something they'd want to play with. Now, I'm not a boy. They're a boy. And sometimes I would have the mental capacity to sit there and do Lego with them. When I say do Lego, I would put the Lego into colours and sizes. I would not actually do the Lego. But, you know, there were days where I was like, pick your audience. And today it's not me. Like, it's just not me. I don't have it today. And that's my boundary. Like, it's coming from a place of love. Like, I'm not in that space. Like, I don't want to play cars and robots. Like, it's not my thing. Like, I'd happily sit and colour with you. And if you don't want to do that, then I appreciate that too, because that's not where you're at. But having that honesty there is really important.
I know somebody that doesn't use the word no in their house. So their child basically does whatever they want, when they want. There is no, which for me, I find incredibly frustrating, because I'm just thinking about that child as an adult when they are in the working world. When somebody says no to them, they will not accept it. When somebody says you're not doing a good job, how are they going to react?
Well, it's really interesting you brought that up, because I did that with my second child. I never said no. However, what I said is I replaced it with other terminology. So if I wanted to say no, I would be like, don't touch that because, and I'd give them an explanation. So they would always have that boundary and always know that it's not something they should be doing, because it's either unsafe or whatever. But it's made a huge difference in what they expect now. So he's in his teenage years, and he works mainly on explanation, not on just no. He won't deal with just no. He'll go, why? Even now. What? But why? You need to tell me why. So I've literally created that by not saying no to him for the first sort of 5-6 years of his life. And honestly, it has a huge impact. So whatever you're doing as a parent, there's no right or wrong, because I hate to say it, but they all are just our little experiments, aren't they? Like, we don't fucking know what we're doing. We don't know what the outcome's going to be. But also, whatever you are doing, remember, don't put yourself on that pedestal as a parent going, this is the right way, because you're going to find out in X amount of years the impact of what you thought the right way was. And it might not be.
I've heard through the grapevine of life that there is a first-time mum at a baby group, and she is, you know, all into, she said, my children are never going to have screens. And I was thinking, it's not reality of how life is right now. And you're setting yourself up for a fall, because if you do end up having to give your child a screen or allowing them to watch some television in the future, you are going to feel like an absolute failure, because you've already put that in place in your mind. You've told people that that's what you're going to do. So as soon as that happens, and it will happen, because, you know, in this day and age, everything is about screens. You're literally setting yourself up to feel like shit about yourself.
Yeah.
I think it's insane. I mean, Christ, we all start off with great intentions. I mean, God Almighty, I think the first year, everything had to be organic. Everything was organic. Everything was absolutely organic, until it got to the point where it was absolutely exhausting and impossible for everything to be organic. And then obviously trips to Nanny and Granddad's house, everything organic certainly went out of the window then. Once you verbalise to other people, then you are opening up to their criticism. You're opening up to your own criticism when you aren't able to implement those things.
Yeah, we set those rules for ourselves, which we don't know if we can keep to them. Yeah. And as much as the intention is there, and I do appreciate that. Like, I've had moments in my parenting where I've gone absolutely no, and then you kind of come with your tail between your legs and you're like, oh shit, that just doesn't actually work.
Yeah.
I remember when I first met Gary, he was like, why don't you parent your kids the same? And I was like, because they're all different. They're all different characters.
Yeah.
And they all get the same idea of what I'm saying. But I will. They are parented differently. Like if I was to raise my voice to my youngest, like I don't need to because he gets it. My middle child, he likes to push a little bit further. Like
Because he's the why.
He's the why. He's the one I never said no to.
You've created that.
But yet my daughter, we can scream and shout at each other, but within 20 minutes we are back hugging on the sofa again.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You know, we both do better next time. Yeah. So it's just really interesting that we put all these rules in place and we think we can stick to them. And actually, we haven't got a clue because we don't know what our life is going to do. We don't know the twists and turns it's going to have, whether you're with a partner now but you might not be, whether you end up having, God forbid you don't, a nervous breakdown, whether you end up finding the love of your life. Like, life changes, therefore you change, or you change, therefore life changes. So now, so does your parenting.
And your children, because they're not going to have the same personality as you. They might have some traits that are very similar to you. How many times does my mum have to say to me, oh, she's just like you, she's just like you. And I'm like, oh, God. That's probably why she drives me up the wall, because it's like spending lots of time with myself. Yeah,
they just mirror back to us.
It mirrors me. But my other daughter, her personality is completely different. So again, you're going to have to parent differently for each child, because each child will have a different boundary and a different way of receiving information. How did you find the teenage years? Because I know from hearing from other people that have got teenagers that that's like, it's meant to be the stormiest season of your relationship with your kids.
Yeah, so I can only speak from personal experience and the fact that I didn't have a freaking clue what I was doing, and I still don't. My daughter, I think for girls, their hormones are crazy. Parenting her as a teenager was tough because her moods, hormones were crazy. The other thing I found really, really hard is we were best buddies, and overnight she didn't want to know me. And that was really hard. She became really withdrawn and really isolated and started making decisions that she knew I wouldn't be okay with.
Yeah.
That's really tough. And it feels like, you know, when you've got a rope and they're attached to the rope and you're pulling the rope and you expect the child to be coming towards you, and there's just endless amounts of rope and they're not getting any closer to you. And it feels like you're doing that, and it feels like you're losing them. And I kind of felt like I did, but at the same time, one thing I had to teach myself when she was in her later teenage years was I've got to trust myself to have taught her the tools that she needs in order to mess up and come back to me.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing for me. So I always kept the door open. I always kept the communication as open as I could, but without stepping on her toes. So I had to honour her privacy, honour her life, and the fact that I gave birth to her. She doesn't owe me anything. I'm not here to live life for her. She's here to live her own life and to make her own mistakes, and she's going to do that, just like I did, just like everybody else did. And I had to teach myself that. I didn't have to, but I taught it to myself, because if I didn't, I would have gone crazy and mad, and I would have been this crazy mum constantly trying to find out what she's doing, which would have pushed her even further away from me. So when she finally came back and moved back in again after she moved out with various boyfriends, it was a relief. It was such a relief, because it was like, we can rekindle, and I can teach her the rest of what I feel like she could know now to benefit her life.
So it's basically, like they say, if you love somebody, let them go, and you know,
exactly
they will come back if it's meant to be. So I guess it's just trust, isn't it? That's all you can do.
And the biggest thing is the fact that even if you trust your child to make the right decision or a healthy decision, you don't know that anybody else around them is going to do that.
Yeah, well, that's it. You're then competing with other people's parenting or lack of parenting.
For me, it was the safety. So I've always said, I don't care what time of day it is. I don't care what state you're in. Ring me, because I will be there. If you love someone, let them go. Let them experience life.
Yeah.
With Alice and Oscar, so my two eldest. So I've dropped them places, and then I've gone and picked them up. And it eats you up inside. Like, there is absolutely no point once I've dropped them off where I come back and I go, oh, great, I've got a few hours to myself. Absolutely not.
No, you're staying up until they're home.
I'm like that on my phone going, is anyone on the Ring doorbell or whatever? Or, I mean, they don't give me their maps because, you know, they're far too cool for that. But I've said to them, give each other your maps. If you don't want to give me them, that's fine. I'm respecting your boundary. That's another thing, actually, which I find crazy, is the way we track people. Now, I'm not disagreeing with this completely because I understand why people want to, because the world feels like a really unsafe place. But I think there's also a little bit of a, like, I don't know, I see it differently. They have their own life. Would I want them knowing where I am at all times? Probably not. Not because I'm going anywhere that I don't want to go, but because I want to feel like I can do what I want to do without being watched. And I can see you're here, Mum. Can you grab this? Or I can say, actually, let me come home and tell you about my day. Like, do you know what I mean? And you're cringing at that, going, I'm going to track my children everywhere they go.
Actually, you can see it in my face like that.
Yeah, and honestly, I really appreciate it. And I do have older children, so it is different because, you know, if my children were your age, I might be thinking differently. And the other thing is I now have 2 boys that are in their teenage years. A totally different ball game with girls. Like, girls is all about the safety. Boys, for me, it's so strange, actually. Parenting a teenage boy, for me, it's about who are your friends, which is like that for daughters as well. But what are they into? So, like, how are they treating women? How are they what relationship do they have towards drink, especially? Because boys are very much like showy offy. Oh, yeah, look at me.
Bravado and,
Ego. So it's a totally different ball game, parenting a boy to a girl. So yeah, in terms of the tracking, I might feel differently if I was having children now. But certainly with them two, with the 2 older ones, I say to them, give each other your location so you both know. So if I do need it, something goes wrong, someone's got it. But for me personally, do I want to be sat on the sofa going, well, he said he's going to be here. He's not there. Now he's gone here. What am I going to do? I'm going to ring him and then he's going to go, for fuck's sake, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, actually, I was never where I said I was going to be when I was that age. And I lived and I did, you know, I experienced those things. And I've got memories. So I'm kind of interfering with his memories. Like, I'm interfering with the way his life is supposed to unfold to a degree. Do you know what I mean? Like, I need to trust him to make the decision to not do the things that he knows are going to be the wrong decision. And by me looking at his tracking, I don't think is going to... Yeah, he might go, oh, no, I can't do that because my mum... No, what's he going to do? He's going to leave his phone. Then he's not going to have his phone on him.
Yeah, because they're all smart.
Exactly. He's just going to find a way. He's going to leave his phone, go out. Anyway, now he doesn't have his phone. Now he's being beaten up.
Oh, my God.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So in a way, I'm like, well, no, have your phone. Don't give me the location. Give somebody else. If you need me, I'm always on the end of the phone. And why do I need to check up on you? I need to trust you. For me, I want to be able to trust my children. And of course, I can't fully do that because I know they're going to lie. Because I freaking lied. They're going to lie. Of course they're going to lie.
Yeah. We all like twisted the truth.
So let them,
to a degree.
Like, let them do that.
Oh, it's so difficult, mate, because I feel really conflicted about that. I feel really conflicted. And I would like everybody to know that me and my parents have trackers together as a unit of 3. So actually...
That's so funny.
Mum knows where I am at all times, which is really, really funny. I travel a bit for work, and I literally, as soon as I like arrive somewhere, she's like, have you arrived? I've seen you've arrived. You've been there for 20 minutes. Is everything okay? Like, it's quite funny. But we had an incident with my dad just over a year ago, which is hence why we've got these trackers. He went missing for a bit, but was actually trapped in a tree. Random, not up a tree, in a tree, but it's a story for another day. What we think initially about our teenage girls is safety, and that is the paramount, isn't it? It's safety. And you know, even when I was living alone before I've met Steve, when I was living alone, my mum would still want me to text her when I got back from a night out.
But my daughter does. So she will always tell me if she's coming home, if she's not coming home. Quite often, when she goes on holiday with her girlfriends, she will call me every single day, sometimes on her way home at 1 o'clock from the club. But I think it's like because we have that relationship, like she trusts me, I trust her, we have that bond. But I just feel this whole tracking thing, as long as someone knows where she is, like her brother or her friend, which I know they do, I don't need to know, because all that's going to do for me
It's give you anxiety.
is make me worry. Who are you with? What are you doing? Why are you there? I don't need that stress, and she doesn't need the questions, because that is way too obsessive and controlling. That she's not living her life. She's living it in the shadow of me not questioning her, and that's not fair on her. That's not fair.
I mean, I think if you want to have those sort of conversations with your teenagers, because there will be teenagers out there that will be happy to let you track them. I'm hoping. There's definitely some points that I agree with. I think when my time comes, maybe we'll revisit these conversations. Because,
and this is exactly the point, though, isn't it? Then this is the whole point of what we've been talking about today. I don't know if what I'm doing is the right thing.
Yeah.
I just know that it feels right now. And I'm not saying what you think you're going to do, I put trackers on their phones, is wrong. I don't think it's wrong.
I mean, I'm not even going to get them phone.
Yeah. No screen time. No screen. No, do you see what I mean? So this isn't me trying to prove my point as right. It's just, here are my reasons why I don't currently do that. You know, and life, like we've said before, life throws curveballs at us all the time. Next week, I might have a totally different idea on this, but right now, I feel strongly about it in that way.
What would be your suggestion for parents out there that are currently going through that part where their children are withdrawing from them and they're finding themselves in that zone where they kind of feel a bit useless, like their job is done, and that transition between you know you're looking after a child to looking after
a little adult,
a young adult.
So the way I dealt with it was crying a lot.
He just had a pity party every single day.
Just have one or two nervous breakdowns, and then hopefully, no, in all fairness, the way I looked at it was, if my child is, in my words, kind of withdrawing, so they're creating distance. When someone creates distance, it's a very natural feeling for the person on the receiving end of that to fight for the attention, because it feels like we're losing something. Now, when we're doing that with a child, it doesn't work, because they don't have the vocabulary to explain why they're doing it, because they don't know.
And they can't physically escape.
And they can't physically escape because they live with us, right? Most of the time. So I taught myself how to honour her experience as it was, as it is. So I would sit there and I would cry a lot, and I would take those moments where I would be like, gosh, this is eating me up inside. But actually giving her that space. But also, when I did have that moment where the door was open for me to come in, is not come in with all of the questions, but come in with love.
Yeah.
So it was always safe when she did approach me. So it wasn't an argument, it wasn't criticism, it wasn't judgment, it wasn't another argument. It was literally, I really love you. Thank you for being here with me right now.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with it. I've missed you. Exactly that. Because that brings softness rather than, remember, they're going through such a big change, and as they're kind of moving away, there's a judgment that forms from the parent, and it's done through love, but it is a judgment. But why are you doing that? Like, no, don't do that. Well, you're going to end up blah, blah, blah. Like, there's a judgment that comes from it. And that's what I tried, and I didn't succeed every time. Trust me, I didn't. I've messed up so many times, and I still do. But that's one thing I practiced every single day, because the relationship with my children, whatever they would look like, was the most important relationship that I was ever going to succeed at.
Yeah.
And so therefore, it was the most that I was going to fail at as well.
Yeah.
There was more failings in my parenting and relationships with my children than there has been in any form of relationship ever in my life. And it will continue that way.
Yeah.
Because
that's the same for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that the realisation is accepting that you will fuck it up. And we will all fuck up our children. No matter what you do, you will fuck it up. If you are the most caring, considerate, helicopter parent, then you are literally releasing a young adult into the world that only accepts good things and will not be able to cope with anything that's negative, or won't be able to cope when they're not loved, or maybe won't know how to, will be looking for a love that they can't really obtain. And also then, if you pull away from your children and you let them be a bit more self-sufficient, then you're allowing them not to be helped. And then they're going to be like, oh, well, I don't need your help, don't need your help, don't need your help. And then that's not going to benefit them in the long term. And I think once we all realise that we will inevitably fuck up our children in one way or the other, as long as we can steer them down the track to find the tools to be able to fix those issues, because our parents have done the same for us with all the goodwill and all the good intention in the world. Some of them, you know, negative, some of them positive. But we are a reflection of our parents. And I don't know one person on the planet that hasn't got some sort of issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as long as we just accept that and just say, do you know what? I'm just going to do the best that I can with the tools that I have. That's all you can hope for.
Do you know, I did this course many years ago. It was the mindfulness-based stress relief course. And I had such a great moment in there where I remember going in, and one of the questions was, why are you here? And I was like, I don't want my children to ever feel the way I feel. And she looked at me and she said, how about instead of trying to prevent your children from feeling the way that you currently feel, you give them the tools to be able to be with and come out of how you currently feel. So supply them with the tools in case they do feel that way.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me. And that, again, it was a really great moment, because I've used that in so many situations where I've seen my children in so much emotional pain, and of course all we want to do is strip it away from them, and if we could, we'd take it from them. But they need to go through this. It's just like we did.
Yes.
Like, it's part of our
part
evolving.
of our evolution.
Yeah, it's part of like growing into an adult. But knowing that I can kind of be with them through that is really powerful, rather than going, they can't feel like that, I need to protect them, because all we're going to do then is basically keep protecting our children from ever feeling and being in experiences that they're going to need in order to evolve.
Yeah, because they're gonna have those moments in their life.
Yeah.
You know, let's have a bit of a reality check. Your child is going to have a broken heart.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm an advert. Your child is going to have a broken heart. Your child is probably going to have a shit time at work sometime. And your child will probably be scared at some point in their life.
Yeah.
So as long as you provide the tools to help combat those emotions when they arise, then you're doing a fucking great job.
One thing as well, before we wrap this up, what I really, really want to say is that if you are looking at your children, and this might be a little bit of a smack in the face, and some people might not like this and it might not land very well, but if you are looking at your children and you are struggling with your children or your child, and there are labels being thrown around, you know, oh, maybe they're this, maybe they're that.
I love the labels.
Yeah, we all love a label, don't we, nowadays? If you want your child to heal, to live a life that is somewhat healthy, or making, you know, watching them make the healthier decisions, you need to work on yourself. And I know that really pisses some people off, because what we want to do is go, well, they're doing this and they're doing that, and I didn't bring them up this way, and I haven't taught them this way, and No, you haven't taught them that way, but that's the way they've learned, they've got away with, and they're now using. Yeah. And until you learn how to put that boundary down for yourself, they'll continue to walk all over you. So doing the work on yourself can only ever benefit your children and the relationship that you have with your children.
I think that's really well said, mate. I really do, because there is a lot of that at the moment. And I think there's a lot of legitimate causes. And I think it's really great that there's so much vocalization about different diagnoses and things like that are going on. And sometimes kids are just not well behaved. The parenting, I definitely know that it's really difficult, because especially when your kids are school age, you are then competing with everybody else's idea of parenting, and there is no right and wrong, but there's definitely times where I have had to sit down with my little girl and tell her that somebody else's parenting is fundamentally wrong because of what their child has said to mine. And that's really difficult to do, and you are going to have to compete with everybody else's ideas of what is parenting. But you know, some children are just naughty kids. That is just how it is, you know, and that is purely for the fact that they are parented, and some children will have formal diagnosis. Yeah.
I was one of the naughty kids at school. I know for me, it was a safe space for me to be expressive. A lot of the children that are struggling at school often are there because it's actually a safe space to express themselves. Yeah, because at home it just isn't, you know, they can't say and do the things that they want to do.
So what's your big takeaways from being a parent, where through all the stress and all the shit have your treasures been found?
Oh, do you know what? A million times a day they have. Maybe not a million, that's probably exaggeration.
I don't know.
No, they have, because I honestly, I find so much gratitude in my life now. And one thing that I just absolutely loved is at the weekend my daughter ran a half marathon, and it's just so beautiful to watch a human that you've brought into the world be so head focused on achieving something for themselves. Not for me, for her. And the same with my other two. My son, with his carpentry, he's one of the top in his class. My other boy, who's, you know, excelling at basketball. It's those things. And don't get me wrong, I've used experiences. Actually, when I look at my children as a whole, it's the fact that they're really fucking nice humans, and the fact that they care a lot. If you rang any one of my children in need, that would be it. They would be there, emotionally, physically. They would just be there, and that I love that. That's a huge takeaway for me. But also the fact that they are achieving for themselves. That's huge, because it means that they have some form of self-worth there, which they're tapping into, and they can grow with that, which is awesome.
That's cool. Very cool.
What about you?
I think for mine, because mine are littlies at the moment, I've got one that is 9 and one that has just turned 5. It's just at that moment, even though sometimes they do my absolute head in, and sometimes I feel like I'm really in the trenches of parenting, and sometimes I get bored. And it's okay. It's okay that I know that a lot of you out there also get bored. Is the actual innocent joy. I just know that this time in their life, those kids have got no worries. They've got absolutely not a worry in the world. The only thing they've got to worry about is whether they're going to get dessert tonight. That's the only thing that they are solely focused on at the moment. And I absolutely love bearing witness to that experience, where I know that this is going to be that brief interlude in their whole existence where everything is light. And even if they're told off, and even if they get disappointed because they can't be in the swimming competition, you know, within a heartbeat, they're laughing and they're joking and they're excited. They're just excited for life. They're just really bloody excited for life. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I wish I could just bottle a bit of that up and drink it down and, you know, have a little bit more excitement for life and that passion. So that, for me, is my treasure takeaway for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, thank you very much for listening to this episode that we've focused on parenting. I've absolutely loved chatting to you about this. It's been really lovely.
We've now got to go and parent our kids. So
Until next time.
see you later.